Welcome. Today we're diving into the third chapter of the Quran, Al Imran, which you might know as the Family of Imran. And wow, what a chapter. It tells this incredibly powerful story about faith, about lineage, and this really cool idea of a shared heritage that connects all the prophets.
So you know the names Mary and Jesus, right? They're absolutely central figures in Christianity. But have you ever wondered how the Quran tells their story? It's a distinct and honestly a fascinating perspective because it weaves their stories into a much broader narrative of prophecy. Let's explore how it does that.
Right from the jump, the chapter sets up this grand theme. See, it's not just about one family in isolation. It's about a continuous, divinely guided lineage. This verse puts the family of Imran in some seriously esteemed company, right alongside figures like Adam, Noah, and Abraham. And this idea of a single, unbroken message is just so key to understanding everything else. The stories we're about to get into, they aren't meant to be seen as these separate, isolated events. No, they're all connected chapters in one long story of divine guidance for all of humanity. You see, right from the very beginning, the text makes it clear that it's not here to cancel out what came before. It's here to confirm it. It actually sees itself as the next chapter in this long history of divine guidance, validating scriptures like the Torah and the Gospel. Okay, so with that foundation in place, we finally get to the family that gives this chapter its name. And what's really interesting is that the story doesn't even start with Mary. It actually begins a generation earlier, with her mother, and a really profound act of faith. It all starts with this single vow, dedicating her unborn child completely to God's service. This one act is the spark for everything that's about to happen. You have to remember, at a time when a son might have been expected for that kind of role, the birth of a daughter, Mary, really signals the start of a unique, divinely guided path.
Right from a young age, it's obvious Mary is special. Her guardian, the prophet Zechariah, would visit her in the sanctuary, and he'd find her with food, provisions that he knew he hadn't brought her. It was coming from somewhere else.
And for response, it's so simple, but it's incredibly profound. It is from God. This just shows her complete trust, her direct, personal connection with the divine. It's a huge clue about the extraordinary role she's destined to play.
Now this is a major turning point. The text elevates Mary to this exceptionally high spiritual rank. Angels themselves deliver the message directly. She's been chosen, she's been purified above all other women in the entire world. This is it. This officially marks her as a figure of immense significance.
And as you can imagine, Mary's incredible story leads right into the next major chapter in this lineage, the miraculous birth of her son, Jesus.
This exchange just perfectly captures the Quranic account of the virgin birth. Mary asks a completely logical question, right? And she's met with this direct, simple affirmation of divine power. It's presented not as some big mystery you have to solve, but as a clear-cut demonstration that God can just will things into existence.
The chapter then goes on to list several of the miracles Jesus performed. Everything from creating life out of clay to healing the sick and even reviving the dead. But, and this is crucial, it always adds a qualifier. Every single one of these amazing acts was done by God's leave. This reinforces his status as a messenger who is acting with divine authority, not on his own.
So here, the text gets very specific about its theological understanding of Jesus. It absolutely affirms his high status as a prophet, a messenger, even calling him a word from God. But it also draws a very clear line, using the analogy of Adam to argue against the idea of his divinity. This analogy is really the cornerstone of the whole explanation. The argument is pretty straightforward. If you can accept that Adam was created without any parents, then why is it so hard to accept that Jesus was created without a father? It's presented as the exact same kind of divine act. Okay, so after laying out its own narrative for these prophets that different faiths share, the chapter then does something really cool. It turns outward, and it uses these very stories as a foundation to build a bridge and invite a dialogue with other communities. The Quran uses this term, people of the book, all the time when it's referring to followers of earlier scriptures, mainly Jews and Christians. It's a term that's meant to show connection, and in this chapter, it's used to extend a very specific and really significant invitation. How direct is that? It's an explicit call for interfaith unity. The proposal is so simple yet so profound. Hey, let's set aside our differences for a second and just come together on the common ground we already share. What's that common ground? The foundational principle of worshiping one God and only one God. And here we go. The narrative circles right back to its opening theme.
The point it's making is that someone like Abraham existed long before the formal traditions of Judaism and Christianity even began. He was, in the most literal sense of the word, a Muslim, one who submits to God. The core argument is that every single prophet taught this same essential message of pure monotheism.
So, beyond all these powerful stories and theological points, the chapter also gives some truly timeless ethical guidance for believers. It lays out pretty clearly what it actually means to live a righteous life. These verses basically give you a roadmap to righteousness. And notice, it's not about abstract beliefs alone. It's about concrete actions, being generous whether you have a lot or a little, controlling your anger, forgiving other people, and when you mess up, humbly asking for forgiveness yourself. The chapter also gives these core principles for building a healthy community and for you as an individual. The guidance is crystal clear. Stick together in unity, be patient with each other, give charity from the things you actually love, and always, always maintain an awareness of God.
So after all this history, all this dialogue, all this guidance, what's the ultimate takeaway from the family of Imran? What's the central idea that's holding this whole thing together?
You know, the chapter's conclusion expands our source of faith beyond just books and history. It points us to the universe itself. It suggests that the signs of God aren't just found in ancient stories, they are literally written into the fabric of the cosmos, in the rhythm of night and day, in creation itself, which was not made for nothing.
And so, this is where the chapter leaves us, with this final, really powerful question. It's an invitation, really. An invitation to have a faith that isn't just something you accept, but something you actively engage with. A belief that gets deeper and deeper the more you reflect on history, on your community, and on the wonders of the natural world all around you.